mrekk is an anomaly.
This is the type of score not even a cheater could do.
mrekk is quite literally better than the rest of the world combined.
Just keeps going.
mrekk is the final boss.
In any gaming community, there's a group of players who are true masters of their craft and stand out for their dominance in certain areas of their respective game. Some are so far ahead of their time that even their very name becomes synonymous with high-level ability. One such example of a player that has embodied and redefined greatness is mrekk. In recent years, he has undisputedly been the best Osu player in the world by a wide margin. Even as players attempt to surpass him, he still reigns at the top of the rankings as the most skilled player the game has ever seen. This is a story of a meteoric rise, breaking limits, and pushing yourself to be better at every opportunity. This is the story of mrekk. Brandon Fung, born July 13, 2006, is an Australian who has lived in the city of Melbourne his whole life with his family. His older brother was an avid PC gamer who shared his hobby with Brandon as early as age 4 and throughout his childhood, with games like Team Fortress 2 and Super Hexagon. Osu happened to be another game his brother picked up, and Brandon would watch him play, amazed and enamored by what he saw. He knew he had to try out this game for himself. The only issue was he didn't have a computer of his own to play on. After searching on the Apple App Store, Brandon found Osu Stream, a version of Osu for iOS devices that had slight gameplay differences but provided a similar experience. He played Osu Stream constantly on his 4th generation iPad and learned the basics, until eventually he got permission to use his father's laptop to play the real version. His account was created on December 13th, 2015 at 2:35 p.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time under the username EliteBrandon365. But in due time, he would change his username to the one we all know him by. Very quickly, mrekk became hooked on the game, constantly putting in hours and getting invested in the community. There was seemingly nothing that could limit the time he could spend on Osu, apart from if his dad needed to use the computer. Wanting to mimic the game's top players, only a week after making his account, he purchased an Osu-branded tablet to use as an aiming device. It should be no surprise that his biggest inspiration starting out was none other than the undisputed greatest player of all time, Cookie Z. He was an emphatic fan who would even argue against his friends and his older brother that Cookie Z was a better player than Rafis or HVIC225. Unlike many other new players, his improvement was fast, as he found a special aptitude for jump-heavy aim maps. mrekk easily surpassed his brother who had shown him the game, making his sibling jealous enough to quit playing entirely. Starting sometime in 2016, he began using the hidden mod on every play he did, which in turn ruined his ability to read without the aid of it for several months. Still, he continued grinding for around 3 to 6 hours every day with whatever remaining energy he had after finishing up his classes in primary school. On March 3, 2018, mrekk learned about performance points, the ranking metric used by Osu, for the first time after setting his first 400 PP play by FCing crack tracks with hidden. A very impressive play for someone relatively new. Everything seemed to be on the up and up. That was until the start of April. During a session after repeatedly messing up on the same map for nearly an hour, mrekk got upset and threw a domino at his laptop's LCD display, which shattered it and rendered it unusable. Out of fear of his parents finding out about his expensive mistake, he decided to keep the laptop's condition under wraps, effectively putting his Osu career on hold indefinitely. Around a year passed before mrekk got the courage to speak about the laptop to his parents. Not by fessing up, but by blaming the broken screen on his much younger brother, who wouldn't get in as much trouble. The plot seemingly worked as they purchased a new laptop, and with the lesson learned, he would not squander this second chance. The remainder of 2019 saw mrekk's explosion onto the scene. Powered by motivation, he improved his aim and tapping to the point of setting 500 and 600 PP plays, and even gaining some first places on maps, leading to him flying up the rankings. Compounded by knowledge gained about the PP system and patterns that rewarded more points than they should, he could easily pump out FCs on quote-unquote farm maps with simple jump patterns in only a few attempts. That's not to say mrekk wasn't cutting his teeth on maps with bursts and streams as well, building up his tapping speed, stamina, and finger control. The tried and true method of pushing his limits by going for passes on difficult, high star rating maps became his signature practice regimen, even today. With unwavering determination, on July 4th, mrekk broke into the top 1,000 players globally, then in the top 100 by October, and on December 15th, he earned a coveted spot amongst the top 50 players in the world. Like has happened with many other great players on the rise, this brought attention, scrutiny, and inevitably cheating accusations. Responding directly to those accusatory Reddit posts, mrekk was obviously upset that his skill level was being questioned, and offered explanations for his prior disappearance and sudden rise. To try and alleviate this, as suggested to him, he began streaming on Twitch and recorded various live plays for his YouTube channel to clear his name. Heading into 2020, mrekk, alongside pushing his aim with jumps, would begin to focus more on streams to further improve his flow aim, stamina, and tapping speed. He played various maps with all different mod combinations: no mod, hidden hard rock, even dipping his toes into the infamous 3 mod combination of hidden hard rock double time. Still, he would rely on newly ranked maps and improving on his already existing scores to gain positions on the rankings, investing a good amount of time into farming PP. One day in April, however, out of frustration from farming, mrekk snapped his tablet pen in half, temporarily making his main focus Counter-Strike until a new pen could be delivered. Needless to say, again, he rebounded with more motivation and drive to play, and decided to try out a whole new way to be competitive. Up until this point, mrekk was not interested in playing OSU tournaments, but that changed as he was encouraged to enter the 7th edition of the Australian-New Zealand Tournament Winter. Initially hesitant to enter, fearing that players which he looked up to would completely dominate him, the opposite would actually happen. Making a podium finish in his first ever tournament, mrekk took the 3rd place spot and gained respect amongst the Oceania community, showing that he wasn't only good at jumps. His diversification into other skill sets was already starting to pay off, and this was only the beginning. June of 2020 saw mrekk entering the top 10 ranked players in the world, putting many more eyes on his meteoric rise and increasing his notoriety in the wider player base. This further popularized the label of child prodigy, which many in the community dubbed him, having reached a single-digit rank at only the age of 13. Pushing even further, he achieved the spot in the top 5, then top 3, and just over a month later, on July 27, 2020, mrekk became the number 2 ranked player in the entire world. Now, there was only one position on the ranking which he had his eyes on, but with a massive 2,700 point gap between himself and Whitecat, the number 1 player, it was going to take time. During the last part of the year, mrekk joined Team Australia as a rookie for his first OSU World Cup, leading them to their best result up to that point, tied for 5th place. He has returned to play OWC every year since, to great effect for the Aussies. 2021 was the breakout year for mrekk. On top of continually improving his aim, he really wanted to branch out and become a well-rounded player. Thus began the process of seriously pushing speedier tapping maps, learning to consistently hit rhythms between 250 to 270 BPM. This brought an increasing number of faster hybrid maps within reach, where his ability to competently aim jumps and tap quickly in conjunction was put on full display. During this time, he also got much more comfortable with reacting to high approach rate, finding a knack for following the rapidly appearing circles. Playing maps with AR often maxing out at 11, mrekk eased himself into competently reading more intense or more complex maps than his contemporaries. The volume of top-tier scores he would pump out was now unmatched, setting world firsts, which only added to his prestige. mrekk would consistently and constantly put up legendary, record-breaking scores going forward, with far too many to mention here. All of these gains to his capabilities would directly contribute to his most impressive accomplishment yet. With a multitude of 1,000 plus PP plays, he gained ground on Whitecat, who had held the number 1 position for the longest consecutive streak ever, until finally mrekk dethroned him on April 8th, 2021. A few months later, he would claim the record of highest PP play for the first time. He was now on top of the world as the rank number 1 OSU player. Like clockwork, mrek's elevated status as the new #1 ranked player brought back cheating allegations, which, after gaining traction in the community at large, he was ready to finally put to rest. First, by producing more live plays showing his hands and monitor as he played, and then later on by attending LAN events where people could see in person just how good he was. 2021 also saw mrek's earliest tournament win, returning in Australian New Zealand Tournament 8 Summer, which earned his first ever profile badge. Capping it all off with the first non-touch device, ranked 10-star full combo. With every passing day, mrekk was proving that he deserved his spot at #1. Unsurprisingly, with such a historic year, mrekk was overwhelmingly voted by the community as the best player of 2021. A sizable gap started to build between him and the rest of the world, which got to the point where he was 3,800 PP ahead of rank #2. He held the 8 highest PP plays in the game at once, and his weighted PP total was more than that of every other player on Earth combined. Even as the formula behind performance points was tweaked and updated, he would take the record for highest PP play multiple times through 2022, with 1,200 and later in the year 1,300 PP plays. In July 2022, mrekk was flown out to Los Angeles to participate in the Roundtable, an in-person event with a 1v1 tournament involving some of the biggest names in OSU. He valued his privacy and had never actually shown his face online, so he decided to conceal his face with a mask, sunglasses, and a Magikarp hat, even while playing. In a fierce Grand Finals match against Utami, mrekk took it to tiebreaker but wasn't able to close it out, coming second. Although he was #1 in the solo rankings, this was a reminder that in the world of tournaments there was room to improve, which after returning home gave him newfound motivation. Months later in Corsace Open, one of the premier team tournaments in OSU, mrekk was instrumental despite only being present for the Grand Finals, top scoring 5 separate maps, forcing a tiebreaker, and with his teammates winning the tournament outright. In October of 2022, mrekk got his hands on a Wooting keyboard, a device that completely changed OSU. It comes with a feature called Rapid Trigger, which paired with a refined tapping technique could allow players to increase their speed and stamina. mrekk, naturally curious to see how effective it could be, adapted to the new form for his fingers and started to raise the bar for his own speed. The result? Numerous groundbreaking scores, including 2 of his personal favorite plays. The technical, finger and aim control intensive patterns of cycle hit hidden double time daunted top players, but not mrekk, who after many attempts delivered a 98.45% FC. Towards the end of 2022, he also took on the hybrid streams and jumps of Marianne hidden double time, with an incredibly high 99.03% FC, netting a PP record of 1,371 in the process. Both world firsts and both still unmatched to this day. Along with his tapping gains, mrekk became so comfortable on AR11 that, in his own words, if you gave him a map that's 8 stars with double time, he could add Hard Rock and FC it in around 20 tries. Being able to play 3-mod well on many different types of maps made mrekk without a doubt the best high AR player in history. If that wasn't enough, he also spent time taking on high-end flow aim maps, flaunting pristine aim control and posting some of the best hard rock plays imaginable. He could do it all, so naturally, mrekk would once again be voted as the community's Player of the Year 2022. Eager to prove his competitive prowess in 2023, he secured a massive win in Corsace Closed, an invitational 1v1, against the top tournament player in the world, Malashevsky. 2 months later, mrekk, now comfortable with revealing his face, returned to Los Angeles with a vengeance to participate in the Roundtable 2. There were other returning players, but as many new, including Malashevsky in the flesh, who as expected was the one to meet mrekk in the Grand Finals. Malashevsky brought himself to a convincing lead, 6-2, 1 map away from winning the match and forcing a bracket reset. mrekk then famously grabbed a bottle of water and drank it to calm his nerves, proceeding to win the next 4 straight maps, forcing a tiebreaker. After falling just short a year ago, mrekk clutched up and won by almost 170,000 points, being crowned the Roundtable 2 champion and winning his biggest tournament prize of $4,000 USD. Back home in Australia, mrekk found himself once again battling an infamous ailment that I'll refer to as number one player syndrome. Most players who have been at the top end up losing passion for Osu, with some quitting entirely. The more dominant a player is, the less competition, and without someone to beat, their reason for playing ceases. As the saying goes, it's lonely at the top. mrekk, although bothered by this feeling, would find solace in chasing scores he had always dreamed of and pushing his PP numbers higher. This incredible mindset is the secret to mrekk's longevity. He didn't need outside competition, he was competing against himself. In mid-October, however, the ranked number 2 player, Kolibed, went berserk, raising the PP record into the 1500s and then 1700s in the span of a week. These records had completely blown mrekk's high 1300s out of the water, and it seemed like there may finally be a rival to his dominance. As the year was closing out and World Cup season rolled around, mrekk and the other Aussies meant business, taking down Chile, the second-seeded Poland, and Canada to secure their first ever trip to the finals. They would lose to the dominant South Korea and United States, but it was an incredible showing as Australia earned the bronze, a third-place finish in the biggest tournament of the year. To cap off 2023, on December 2nd, mrekk hit an incredible milestone that put his dominance over the rankings into perspective. He had been number 1 for longer than any other player in history, even surpassing the legendary Cookie Z. And he did it all consecutively, 967 days straight as number 1 and counting. Surprising no one, mrekk was voted to be the best player of 2023, his third time in a row winning the community choice. From going for high PP plays, to knocking out the community's bucket list of dream scores, and claiming a myriad of bounties on the side, there was no shortage of mrekk plays in 2024. Pushing the limits of how fast he could aim, he would start practicing maps with jumps over 400 BPM, attaining insane passes like his double-time 8 miss on Odoru Mizushibuki. With the looming threat of a Kolibed, for months mrekk was in search of any maps that could give him the edge, namely those mixing incredibly high-speed aim and bursts of tapping. He pulled off his first 1400 PP in January with a hidden double-time Hard Rock FC on the 345 BPM Rat Race. Then 1500 PP in May with a double-time FC on the 375 BPM Owari Sumugishi Mono. They extended his time in the lead, but in the same way he had reached number 1 originally, the lead was being chipped away at. On July 21st, 2024, while mrekk was away on vacation, a Kolibed struck, becoming the new number 1 player and ending mrekk's unprecedented reign at the top. He had spent a mind-boggling 1,200 days straight at rank number 1. For 3.5 years, the number 1 spot had known no other person than mrekk. Until then. In mrekk's mind, it felt strange to lose his home at the top, but in his heart, new competition rekindled his drive to farm. It seemed like a fight for the top was imminent, when less than 2 weeks later, on August 8th, mrekk claimed the number 1 spot back. Unfortunately, it fizzled out, as a Kolibed was never quite able to catch up, and a fully unleashed mrekk once again left the world in the dust. On August 29th, in a historic moment, mrekk reached his first 1600 PP play with a hidden double time 98.2% FC on Drummer's Save Me. This was a legendary score which the community and mrekk himself, after choking multiple times, had waited years for, with a $1,000 bounty attached. Less than 24 hours later, he followed it up with a 99.2% hidden double time FC on Serchant's Save Me, also breaking the PP record with a whopping 1,760 PP. Both world first FCs and both remaining unbeaten to this day. mrekk was just starting to build his lead. The Aussies returned to the Osu World Cup ready to demonstrate that they could rival the current super teams, eliminating opponents in losers bracket until the penultimate matchup. Facing the champion United States team in a do-or-die situation, Australia, on the back of mrekk, took an early lead and brought it to match point, but the Americans fought back for a tiebreaker. Australia, despite getting so close, lost, finishing once again in 3rd place, but more than ever showed that going forward they are contenders for the gold. The end of 2024 saw a shakeup to the rankings, with an update to performance points known as combo scaling removal, which made non-FC plays viable, and allowed mrekk to capitalize on high star jump maps. On November 3rd, mrekk became the first, and currently only player ever to surpass 30,000 total PP, and right before the year's end achieved the first ranked 11-star FC with a new PP record in the 1800s. For the 4th time in a row, a streak which no other player has achieved, mrekk was voted the community's Player of the Year 2024. In the first part of 2025, there's already been so much to cover. After huge wins, having proved his head-to-head ability, and earning 18 profile badges to boot, mrekk is entering fewer tournaments now, but has still put up great runs, including a recent win in the Laser Grand Arena. Currently sitting at over 570 number ones on some of the hardest maps in the game, he has put out some unthinkable scores, like a hidden double time Hard Rock FC on Made of Fire, and a Hard Rock FC on Riven's Yomiuri. He even has number 1 on the most infamous map of all, Apparition, which stood for almost a decade as the oldest ranked map without a full combo, because of how intense, awkward, and flat out scary it could be. Fresh off of the new year, after hundreds of attempts, on January 17th, mrekk claimed the first ever FC and a $1,050 bounty. Talking about PP, March saw mrekk establishing a 5,000 PP lead over the number 2 player, the largest gap in magnitude and percentage-wise ever. It would be remiss if I didn't mention that on April 26th, mrekk set a 1 miss and 5 slider break score on the newly ranked Songs Compilation 6 with hidden double time, clocking in at 2,048 PP, breaking the 2,000 PP barrier. The PP system will soon change to bring this and many of mrekk's other top plays down to more reasonable values, but I think we can all appreciate the absurdity that a 2,000 plus PP play even happened to begin with. There's one piece of mrekk's story I have saved for last, which arguably is his greatest yet. On March 5th, 2025, mrekk's PP total reached beyond 32,767, more than the signed 16-bit integer used in-game could display. With such a ridiculous way to break the game, Osu's creator, Peppy, awarded him a one-of-a-kind user title. No title could be more apt for the most skilled player ever, the one who broke every record possible, the player that redefined what is considered possible, Limit Breaker. There has never been a player as masterful, versatile, and passionate as mrekk. He is one of the best players in any mechanical skill set you can think of, and top-notch in pretty much every other skill there is. As of the making of this video, mrekk has been the number 1 ranked Osu player for a total of 1,500 days and counting. There's a multitude of scores and other details I couldn't fit into a single video, otherwise we could be here for hours if I really went in depth. The sheer dominance over the scene and legacy he has built up surpasses anyone else, and the crazy part is, it's still ongoing. December 2025 will mark mrekk's 10th year playing Osu. A whole decade, and he has no plans to retire or quit for the foreseeable future. He doesn't let anyone else get in his way, blocking out the noise, enjoying the game by playing for himself, with the ultimate goal to consistently best himself. All of this is why mrekk is the greatest Osu player of all time.
Who the fuck is mrekk? That's me, baby!